Being 5:15, I would like to call the January 27th Economic Development Committee meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call has been taken.
Yes.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
Move to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Johnny, seconded by Tim. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Agenda is approved. I would entertain a motion to approve the December 22nd, 2025 meeting minutes as presented in the packet.
It should be December 2nd.
Did I say 22nd?
Yes.
Approve the December 2nd, 2025 meeting minutes as presented in the packet.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Seconded? Okay. Motion by Tim, second by Colton. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Meetings are, the minutes are approved. Moving on to public comment. Public comment? One last call for public comment. Hearing and seeing none. Public comment is closed. Okay, next we move on to a presentation of UW's Extension Rural Entrepreneurial Venture Program.
All right, I will kick that off. As you saw in your package, we have some information about UW Extension. They have a Rural Entrepreneur Ventures Program, and we have Mia, is it Jung? I'm going to slaughter your last name if you want to help me out with
I
that.
know it's a hard one. It's Jung.
It's
It's
okay.
Swedish. Yeah,
Got
just forget about the L and then you're good.
Perfect. But Mia is gracious enough, is with UW Extension and is gracious enough to come with us tonight to kind of talk about the program that got going on. So Mia, go ahead and share your screen and I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you so much. I will go ahead and share my screen here. All right, how does that look?
Give us a second and good to go. Thank you.
Great. Well, thanks everyone for having me. My name is Mia Jung. I work for Outagamie County and Winnebago County for UW Extension. So I serve 2 counties. I'm the equivalent of Amy Ebert. If you've met her in Wapaka County, we're good colleagues. I'm actually her mentor. And I've been in this role for now almost 7 years. I love my job. I work in the space of entrepreneurship. I do farmland preservation work. I work in food systems. I do organizational leadership work. I'm kind of all over the place, but it's such a fun job. And I'm here to present to you about Wisconsin REV, which stands for Rural Entrepreneurial Venture. And this program is a pretty new program still in Wisconsin. It's been piloted in other places in the nation and different iterations, and our closest neighbor is Minnesota. I'm going to go through these slides just so you get an overview of the program here. So the whole idea with Wisconsin REV, which is our shortcut because it's such a long name, it's really to advance entrepreneurship-led economic development in rural communities in Wisconsin. So why this framework? Well, it's a framework that has a lot of flexibility, but provides real good guidance on how to advance economic development through entrepreneurship and small business development. And it's kind of a duplicative framework that Extension can then provide you, and then have the flexibility of setting community goals and customization depending on what your community feels is the most important. And you really have this framework of an asset-driven framework looking at what is already there and what is already happening that we can draw on. And I know with New London, you have a lot of stuff going on. I presented on Rev back in August at the New London Chamber and with the Revitalization Committee. Chad was kind enough to invite me in April. And from that meeting, I learned so much about what's going on in the community, so many cool events, so much interaction with business owners already happening in the community. So I feel like New London is a really great would be a really good community to pilot this program. It's a grassroots effort, really. So you kind of create this community-led team, similar to what you are, I would say, or similar to what the Revitalization Committee is. So it would be stakeholders from different industries, different sectors, to kind of create that leadership team that will kind of steer the ship with my help. And it creates long-term capacity. So the first 2 years are instrumental to kind of create that framework that then is going to lead to more economic growth in your community. So here are some examples of other communities in Wisconsin that are already doing this work. And they've only been going on for 1 or 2 years so far. And I want to mention too that this initiative is sponsored through Compeer. So in those counties where Compeer has presence is where the first efforts are really going stronger, but there are also opportunities to involve communities that are not in the Compeer region, but that is the main funder for the program. So we have a handful, about 10 communities that are engaged so far. Just a little bit of background about entrepreneurship-led economic development, which is kind of the foundation of REV, which is to understand that the traditional business attraction and retention strategies aren't sufficient. They can be very good complements, but it's important to note that small businesses actually provide more jobs for smaller communities and larger communities. And then also recognizing that leadership is so important. So rural leaders play a really important role for job creation and creating, small businesses, small business opportunities that can then create income growth and poverty reduction. And there's also a lot of data pointing to that communities that has entrepreneurship-led economic development, they actually have higher regional stability and a higher GDP. There's higher levels of innovation in those communities with more entrepreneurship. And then again, just go to your own downtown. You have this place of, sense of place and community based because of your entrepreneurs, because of your small businesses. And this includes both for-profit business, it includes nonprofits, it includes also cooperatives. So we have a very wide sense of what entrepreneurship means. And I also wanted to include just a little hint here, if you want to learn more about the framework, it is based on the E2 model, which is entrepreneurial ecosystems, and you can go online and find more, but I want to stay focused on the branded program that we're working with, which is called Wisconsin Rev. And so this is just kind of an illustration of how this would look like. So the phase 1 would be working in about the first year is to create this core leadership team, which could be an existing committee, but it could also be a new committee. And that core committee would exist of at least 5 people, and then myself, I would be the coach to the committee. We would set up parameters of what does success mean for the committee, for the community. We would do some stakeholder mapping, understanding who's out there, who has an interest in this program and who could be involved. Then understanding who are the entrepreneurs and the small businesses in the community, that mapping. And then figuring out what are the resources, the entrepreneurial resources in the community, and potentially where are the gaps, right? And then we're planning for the outreach. This is the most important piece of Rev, is the outreach. So going out to businesses and talking to the entrepreneurs and the business owners is going to really guide the next steps and the goals for the program. So I know that this is already happening just based on the meeting I was at with the revitalization committee with the downtown businesses. That's already happening. So that's such a great thing that it's already happening, boots on the ground, talking to businesses instead of sitting and waiting for businesses to come to you, kind of thing. And then phase 2, which would be, I guess, pretty much the second year. Yet this is, as you can see, and these 2 illustrations are in the handouts that Chad provided you before the meeting, so you can kind of follow along. It's just an illustration of how this would look like. And so at the center, at the heart of eRev, again, is the entrepreneur outreach, and then to figure out matching entrepreneurs to resources for a greater economic impact. And so this is kind of an iterative cycle, and there will be a lot of back and forth. So it's not linear, so to speak. But again, at the heart of this is the outreach, talking to the entrepreneurs, setting goals, then following up with the entrepreneurs. Learning from other communities will be part of this too. So you would have conversations with communities in other parts of Wisconsin that's doing Wisconsin Rev. You would engage with the community, of course, and make sure that the community knows about the effort and kind of do the storytelling, right? And saying what's going on, and Extension would, of course, help with that. That's a big part of our job, is to figure out how can we track the metrics and gather the data. And then in turn, that can really help with grant writing, investments. We've already seen with the Rev communities that only in year 1 and 2 that they've been more successful in grant applications, for example, for small business development activities. So that's a really strong reason to engage in Rev. So why we are uniquely positioned to host Rev is we already have a collaboration with our neighbors in Minnesota, and with the founders of the framework that I mentioned earlier, the E2 framework, which means energizing entrepreneurship. There's so many acronyms here, but and then obviously you would have access to me. So the community coach. So I'm already a trained coach in Rev, and you would have my assistance to help you shape goals. And when I say you, I don't mean exactly you if you wouldn't be part of this leadership committee, but I'm saying New London's core leadership committee. You would get additional resources through Extension. We have a lot of other programs that are very that overlaps with what we're doing in Rev. So there's one program, for example, called the Rural Wisconsin Entrepreneurship Initiative Program. You might have heard of the Connecting Entrepreneurial Communities Conference that's happened now 2 years in a row. The third year is going to be in Green Lake, actually. And at that conference, we will have a gathering for all the Rev communities. So that will be a really fun opportunity to meet in person with other Rev communities and to learn from your peers. We have downtown development specialists in Extension that can help figure out if there's anything that you specifically want to do. I know you're already working hard with your downtown, with your revitalization committee. We have business succession planning specialists. We have access to researchers obviously as well in Extension that does research on entrepreneurship and business development and economic development. This is actually incorrect. It's not a 3-year commitment anymore. It's a 2-year commitment. They changed the parameters because they've noticed that the 2 years is usually enough to kind of get communities off on their own to do Rev on their own. Yet, of course, you could still reach out to Extension for ongoing support. But the first 2 years are really the most instrumental to set up your strategy. You would get a lot of access to data. Extension is very good at that. And then obviously setting yourself up for success so you can have this self-sufficiency going on moving forward, which you already have, but can really build on what you already have. So these are some of the short-term outcomes we can see with the first cohort that began in June of 2024. So they've already established leadership teams. They work with the community coach. They're mapping their assets, and they have more defined vision for their community, expanded their own capacity to do this work. And they've started to identify sources of capital, like I was mentioning, the grants and that. It's been much easier for some of these communities to receive external funding. Some medium-term outcomes that you can see from neighboring states like Minnesota. In Spring Grove, for example, they launched a chamber of commerce. They didn't have one in the past. They started an entrepreneur hub in their downtown. Another community in Minnesota started a youth entrepreneurship program, something that they didn't have in the past. And they understood that keeping their youth in their community was going to be instrumental to growing their entrepreneurship and their businesses, right? And then we have Spring Valley, Minnesota. They've gotten a lot of traction. Again, talking about funding, they started a $125,000 revolving loan fund that they then distribute to businesses, a micro grant, a program for childcare, and then been able to expand a lot of their businesses that's already there and to really do that homegrown approach. Now, the long-term outcomes that you can see with REV or with E2, however you want to say it, can be pretty monumental. So these examples are from Ord, Nebraska, which are one of the early communities that started with this framework with one of the founders of E2. So as you can see, there can be a lot of ripple effects happening with the framework. So if you want to build a good framework for businesses, you are going to need other things too, like a good hospital, for example, right? So people want to live there. So there's so many other things that can happen through this strategic framework. A more diversified economy from 2 sectors to 7 sectors. Quality of life, so a lot of like livability projects that happen in that community to make it a more pleasant place to live. They've been able to track new residents, so there's been 50% gain in 30-year-olds. So we know they're important to our economy, right? And just more diversity in their community and expanded leadership. I know I'm up on time here, but please let me know if you have any questions, and I'm always there offline too if you want to set up a call, or I can take questions now too, of course. Thank you.
Is there any questions from the committee about the program? I mean, and April and I have seen this a couple times now. We haven't really talked about any framework moving forward for New London yet, but I guess, are there any questions from this group? I think this is just a program option that we could talk about. Whether we do it or not, it's totally up in the air. But I thought it was just kind of a cool little program or a nice program to kind of promote to the committee about potential
Absolutely.
entrepreneurial.
Is there a cost to the community to start a REV program?
That's a great question. I don't know why I didn't say this earlier. No, there's no cost. The only cost is the human capital. So meaning the 5 people that would be in the leadership team. There could be more people than that, but 5 is the minimum. And I would say at least one of those people should probably be a staff person that's already in the space of economic development, somebody like Chad or April that could kind of build it into their position a little bit to keep to make sure that the program can go on, even after I left as a community coach after the 2 years. It just builds a lot more continuity, and to have a person who can do it as part of their job. But no cost.
And as an example, not saying that this is something that we would do or things, but if we would proceed with the project, I mean, maybe a potential project for a group would be to help spur entrepreneurial growth in the Wolf River Plaza. I mean, we've got a plaza that has plenty of vacancy, and is that an opportunity for a group to get together and just encourage and work with the owner, to try to help fill something like that? Just as an idea, as a thought, but
Yeah, absolutely. I think, there's so many ways you could go with this program. And if that would be a focus area of yours, that would be absolutely a possibility. Yeah.
I guess I'm kind of looking at it and I'm thinking that there are so many ways to go with a program like this. And, I guess I would like from the committee a little bit more discussion about, what would our focus be? What would we be looking for as the Economic Development Committee from a Rev team, basically? What would we, where are we going? And I think we've had these conversations. We had at the end of last year. Where do we want to see New London go? What are we looking at?
Mhm.
So that's kind of where I'm actually, it feels a little overwhelming.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
it feels a little overwhelming. It makes your brain go in a lot of different directions. And where would we focus? And not that we would need to limit any focus. I mean, there's a lot of directions that we could go. There's a lot of directions that New London should go. We just can't do them all at once. So
Absolutely.
kind of prioritizing and mapping would be something that I think that would be a benefit from this group. So, yeah, right now I just feel
That's a
overwhelmed.
really, really good point. And I feel like that's true for so many things, right, that are complex. You kind of have to look at the whole picture, but then you do need to make some decisions about where do we start? What can we do short term? What can we go for long term? Or what can we dream about? But that's what Rev would help you do, is to really, look at the bigger picture and look at all the different pieces and then say, okay, well, maybe there's some low-hanging fruit here, and then let's start there. Or let's start with something that feels very, very critical or urgent.
Any other questions from the committee? That was just an interesting program just to kind of bring up as an option. Nothing that we were gonna like make a decision. Like I think Belinda said, it's just kind of overwhelming where this could go if it's something that, we
Right.
kind of
Yeah.
look at. But
I feel like
more-
I got to chew on it.
yeah, more informational just says, hey, this is out there. This is something
Mhm.
we could take advantage of in the future. So. With
I mean,
that-
it seems amazing. And it seems like it would be something that, considering the amount of growth and all of the amazing things that are already happening in New London, that this would be a good program to tap into. But it also feels overwhelming considering all that we have going on. So,
Yep, totally understand. Well, why don't you take some time to discuss, and then Chad, do you want to just circle back with me when you feel like you've had a little bit of time? And then obviously we don't have a start date. This is an ongoing program, and so you can kind of hop on the bandwagon anytime. Yet I do think that it's great. It would be good to do it sooner as opposed to later, since we don't have like unlimited capacity like, so just let me know as soon as you feel like you have a good sense, or if you want me to come back and like help, do some brainstorming or just decision making or whatever it might be that you think you would need to like make a decision, let me know. I'm not pressuring you at all. I think it's important to be honest about capacity and be sure to, be ready for this, even though, again, it doesn't have to be necessarily this committee that would be engaged. It could be a completely different committee.
Wonderful. Well, Mia, I want to thank you for taking the time out to kind of talk about the program. And then I guess in the future, we'll be in touch.
Absolutely. Have a good night.
Okay,
thank
thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye now.
Okay, any further discussion on that?
I would just say from the revitalization standpoint, I think they seemed interested in it. We just wanted to make sure that economic development was aware of it, to see if anybody from this committee would, if we did move forward, that anybody wanted to join. that leadership. Again, it was up in the air, same thing. Everyone felt like we had a lot of irons in the fire, and other things we have to tackle, but, it's on our radar.
Okay. Anything else from anybody else? Okay, we have some updates on the year-end grant writing activities for the city, school district, and New London Chamber.
Peyton, I'm actually, April, can you grab the mic that's in the back? It's gonna be up front. Should just pop out.
Perfect. Right. Thanks for having me back. I think I was here last in June, so I just want to give my updates for 2025 and present what the grant writing role was able to do in the short 6 months almost now.
And Peyton, just for people online,
Yes.
introduce yourself.
Yes, Peyton Lenher, community grant writer for the school district, the city of New London, and then the New London Chamber as well. I am the sole employee of the New London Area Chamber Foundation. Just what I'm going to cover with our time together is what is grant writing, just a little education, and also inform kind of what that looks like for me in this role, who makes up that foundation that I talked about, what we do, the initiatives that we pursued in 2025, the funding impact, and then also just some of those highlighted projects that were big wins for me and also the community. And then I have some 2026 priorities and goals just to review. Nothing's like set in stone, but we have some applications and there's some deadlines. And then just to say thank you. So my slide on what is grant writing, it is a very informal, it's a formal application, and there's a couple of different progressions of it. There's the pre-award phase, which is like your research. Maybe that's relationships with a corporate community development manager. There's application reviews. There's writing the application itself. And then there's evaluations, monitoring, reporting after if award is given. It's a life cycle, as it says. I really love that infographic because it is the life of a grant application versus just typing a really nice essay and submitting and wishing for the best. Grant writing to me is not necessarily free money. It's funding to support or uplift a project that already has a plan, a budget, and it's already got a team maybe, or there's somebody managing it. So it's really just there to be supportive and uplift versus fund a whole project or create a project itself. Depending on what type of grant you're writing, it can take a lot of time. It can take a little bit of time. There's different types of grants. Some are foundation, some are state, federal. I speak for a lot of grant writers when I say the state and the federal hours are really average, especially for us Wisconsin grant writers. It can take up a whole week for some of those state grants. As I said earlier in revitalization committee today, I was looking at an application with Ginger for DNR, and it's like 108 pages of an application alone. So I have no doubt that that would take me close to 40 to 60 hours to write with her, partnering it. Different types of grants I have up there just to kind of give you different arenas. Some of the grants that we've pursued were obviously foundation in 2025, corporate grants, educational grants, and then just kind of variety of state grants as well. But you can really play in any arena, write for any arena, as long as you have that project, that budget, and that plan that's going to be successful and sustainable after the grant award is done. So the New London Area Chamber Foundation, that I have the mission up there, the mission statement. It is to create it's created to function as an organization that would pursue grant funds and charitable activities to support the community projects, and then bring that economic development initiatives that's where kind of that alignment between this committee and my work, we kind of align there together to have a real lasting impact. And that's kind of the goal. Every application I write, I want to make sure that it does have that real lasting, sustainable impact on the community. The three entities that make up the foundation are the school district, the chamber, and then the city of New London, obviously. what I focus on and what the committee focuses on, for the foundation, we have 3/4 initiatives or arenas. The first one's tourism growth. 2025, mainly 2024, broke a lot of records for Wisconsin tourism. We saw the highest amount we've ever seen, I would say at least in 20 years, for tourism regarding like revenue, regarding dollars spent from out of state, out of town visitors. So tourism growth and really funding marketing initiatives, the events to boost our local economy and revenue is huge. That's a big initiative for us. Quality of life improvements, kind of just making sure that New London stays modern and make sure it's a place to live, work, and play for our community. And then economic development and workforce development, working with businesses, if that's attraction, if that's retention, workforce development. That's more so kind of working with like skilled trade, training programs, your YAs, your creating those pipelines, cradle to career sometimes is what's used, and just always supporting revitalization projects such as making sure our downtown businesses, our tenants, and that area is well loved and given well funds to as well. Kind of making sure we capitalize on those types of grants or projects. So for 2025, we were awarded over $101,000. We had 6 community projects supported. I wrote 7 grants and I obtained and won 5 of them. We had a 70% success rate with those. And my biggest goal off of this page was I started in May, and then by October, I was $5,000 away from my goal that I set for myself when I first entered the role. So very exciting, really inspiring. Now I want to double and triple it for this year. So just really keeping that progress forward, moving forward. But that just meant that the city, the school district, the community was bringing grant applications or grant ideas that were appropriate, that were measurable, sustainable, and that we all went together. So that was really cool. Some of the 2025 grant awards that I like to highlight were the Lincoln Lookout Playground redevelopment. We were awarded a grant through the Marilyn Taylor Wolt Cheese Foundation. That was a big ask, a big budget ask, but we were awarded $50,000 for that. And we'll continue to find grants that are appropriate for playground redevelopment there for that inner city school. Another one with the city of New London's IT department was Wisconsin Emergency Management, Cybersecurity. And then summer kickoff, the lights and light poles that were at the event, that was a corporate foundation grant that was awarded. So now we get into 2026. Some of the themes for the priorities for grant writing. Placemaking is a really loud grant theme that's coming forward throughout not only our committee, the area foundation, but also Wisconsin itself. There's a lot of placemaking to be happening, whether or not it's grant funded, but there's just big initiatives for placemaking. Business retention and attraction. That's a big one, especially for out-of-state residents, out-of-state businesses. That's all Wisconsin Economic Development Corp that they're running. Destination parks, updating, enhancing community spaces that already exist, such as parks or a riverfront. And then, like I mentioned, the tourism promotion, kind of really capitalizing on that. We'll work together. There's a couple of different grants at the Department of Tourism, and then just kind of different varieties of grants for tourism in general. So in those 3 arenas, I put a couple of grants that I'll be pursuing or taking to the committee to make sure we have a project that will be appropriate to apply for in those areas. Economic development arena, T-Mobile hometown grant, WEDC's Vibrant Spaces, and then just any additional enhancements there for the community space. Tourism growth, looking at Wisconsin Department of Tourism, they have a couple different variety of grants. And we have an eye on one of them to support the tourism center, but there's a couple of different ones that maybe we'll look down the future for to get ready for. And then economic development, there's a couple of different employer community supported partnerships But then there's also Fast Forward is a really popular, it's the only training grant for employers in the from the DWD, as well as Fab Lab is pretty popular around our area. That's a grant through Wisconsin Economic Development Corp as well. This is just my favorite picture of New London. It's the riverfront. It's the only one on the internet in Canva, so that one had to go on here. And I obviously have my contact information. I have business cards if you ever want to connect over an idea, initiative, or I can come back every 6 months and we could talk about grant writing. I love talking about grant writing. But thank you again for learning about the work that we did in 2025 and then just what we're getting excited for. I hope and continue the engagement with your committee and then also aligning your projects and kind of both roles so that we can have this progressive, sustainable, positive change in our community. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for Peyton before we let her go?
Yeah.
As time goes on, how much of your time do you expect to spend on grant tracking versus grant writing?
Depends on the grant. Because for some of those, like a DNR grant that you would report and track on, that's going to be a different hourly or like a different, different time cost there versus a foundational report. To be determined right now. I don't have an answer for that one right now, but that is something that most grant writers, including myself, we create in our grant calendar as well to make sure we're getting like our reports and we're tracking and there's deadlines. It's a very calendar year type of role. So that's a good question. Thank you.
And to that point, a lot of times the grant administration is many more hours than the
Yes.
grant application process. So
Yes, yeah, that especially DNRs.
yeah.
I'm just singling out
Maybe the
DNRs
state
this month. That was, yeah.
So a combination between Peyton and like the DNR grant that Ginger would be
Ginger.
involved in. So
Yeah.
combination hours.
Yeah. And you'd really, it's very collaborative. And most likely, usually when I set these applications up in the portal, staff has the login, has the admin, and I do too, but mainly it's them making sure that they're submitting their reports and just double checking on my end, making sure that that's all taken care of and evaluated. Because usually on grant applications, especially for state and federal, you need to have a staff or somebody who's manning the actual project, somebody who's admin on that, if you would, that they can check in with. So yeah, it varies. Thank you.
So from the aspect of this committee's involvement, what can we do? What can we be doing to help you be better set up for the grant
Yeah.
process?
When I first got into the role, I met a lot with Greg. We knew each other from previous, before I got into this role.
And Greg is
the grant writer in Wapaka. He's for the Wapaka County, or Wapaka City Chamber and School District as well. He has been in his position since 2020, so he's got a really nice probably presentation that he likes to give out every year. It's probably pretty stacked. But being a part of conversations when there's projects, city projects early to know what's going on or what's going to be new, kind of getting getting the information he said is just really crucial, because then you can, when we're researching, then I can be like, okay, this matches with this project, or no, this would be a good fit. So just being early, if there's any big initiatives, plans, anything like contracts that you're going to sign with WEDC, just let me know, being informed too. So yeah, thank you.
Are grants specifically for communities, or are there small business grants and for the community industry that we could help our businesses in town?
Yep. So it kind of depends on what organization you pull the grant from. So there's state level, like Wisconsin Economic Development has small business development credit grants. That's where you guys got your facade grant. Or it was supported. You probably had your own initial facade.
that was the Wapaka County Economic
Yes,
Development Corporation that got that grant. Yes.
Yes, so they pulled that from the state Economic Development Corp. To support small businesses, and like they ran during COVID with all the ARPA funds, they ran Main Street Bounce Back, $10,000 grants to fill downtown spaces. So there's various ones they'll come out of, that's for the whole state to apply for. Industrial, I see a lot, there's not too many from DWD other than that Fast Forward, that's a training grant for that employee, and it requires a little bit of partnership there, but it's not all of the question. For small businesses, Main Street America, they are a national organization. They partner with various corporate national brands or corporations too. Like they just had their grant for small business owners to apply to receive anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000 for them. They had to have like a brick and mortar. So there's just various, there's national, there's state, there's federal. Our small business development admin from from SBA, they're out of Madison, and I see their newsletters, and there hasn't been anything like directed towards small business owners yet for 2026. So we're kind of just watching right now.
She will send those to Indy and I will make sure to get them in the local loop. And we've been building a grant library as well on our line, on our website, because ever since hiring Peyton, we get a lot of questions about different organizations and businesses. For that added support, we want to make sure that there's a landing page for that information.
Yep. And then on the foundation website too, if there's something very specific to small businesses, we put it out there too. Like I kind of do a fast summary, what like kind of fast eligibility, and then the link to apply. And then I've had a couple of business owners reach out and ask if I will grant write or if I'll support, and I say I will absolutely review your application, but I won't write it for you specifically. But I'm always there to ask questions and help where I can in the scope of practice for those small business owners as well. But I would love to obtain a very fun, large grant for our small businesses. So it's on my research every month. So, but I can keep this committee informed too when that comes along. It's a good question. Perfect. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Peyton. Okay, we are ready to move on to updates and reports, business updates from April.
Right. First one I have is a new business. I just reached out to them on Facebook to see if I could get a little bit more information, but this is everything that I grabbed off of Facebook. A new business called the Jay's Barbershop and Body Supply went into the former Quick Stitches at 307 North Water Street. They have a video that's circulating on one of the New London Happenings page that shows that it's more than a barbershop. They're carrying, you know, all of your toiletry necessities, your toothpaste, hairspray, shampoo, and much more. So they had a grand opening on December 13th. So it looks like they're doing pretty well. It looks like they did some really nice improvements to that building, some painting and put up some wall slats. So it looks really nice. I wanted to add this. I know I reported on this last time, but I found out the name of the business. I'm still waiting to connect with the business owner, but it looks like it's going to be called 4D. It's that convenience store that went into, I call it Grove Street, but it's on 102 Cook Street right next to the library. Chad, Peyton, India, and I went over to the new location of Macaport, Coveme, and Wolf River Eye Care. This is out by Northland Electric. Highly recommend checking this out when it opens up. They each have, right now, it looks like Coveme's, all of their product has been moved over, so they are operating now. Wolf River Eye Care will be opening on Monday, and Macaport will be opening, did he say March 1st?
Yeah,
March 1st. Mm-hmm. So each of these businesses have relocated over into the industrial park, and they pretty much doubled their space, which means they're growing. And from my understanding, each one of them is increasing their staff as well. Chad, is there anything that you would add from our visit today?
I just want to kind of point out Macaport. It was, he said it was 5 years ago.
5 years ago, he
with
came
Bill,
in front of this
and
committee.
Bill actually kind of got him going, if I recall. Nick came here to a meeting just as he was starting. So what an awesome success story that a small business entrepreneurial has built a larger business. He's gone into a second building right now. He's created that relationship with Coveme, that's his screen printing supplier from Italy. He is the only, like, I believe he's the
The
only distributor in North America,
and it's right in New London. It's
in New
coming out of New
London
London.
for that product. So just an awesome success story happening in our city. So just want to
It's
kind of point that out.
huge. It's absolutely amazing. So
And this, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the site that we were having discussions regarding on the planning commission, correct? Approving the expansion of this site.
Oh, yeah,
The
whether it
zoning.
was, Bible, yes, correct.
Yeah, there was a lot of discussion about whether it should be kept industrial or allowing business in that
Correct.
spot.
And in the end, just to kind of summarize it, the name Northeast New London Business Center kind of says it all. It's a business center, so
Yes.
all types
Yep.
of businesses. So very exciting to see that building go up and those businesses locate. Hopefully they're successful.
So Macaport was located over by the former Piggly Wiggly next to Touch and Tan, and that does open up his space. I think it's about 5,000 square feet. It's a pretty big building because Colpme was in the back there, his supplier. So that opens up a pretty large lease space in March. So if anyone is aware of a business that would like a nice open space with a loading dock, please let us know. We have it listed on the chamber website.
Wolf River Eye Care is also. gonna
Wolf
be up
River Eye
there.
Care is from, yeah, we learned that today.
Mhm.
It sounds like the vape shop owns that entire building. And they're out of Minnesota, so I haven't connected with them yet if they have anyone coming into that space. But from my understanding, it's open. We just did a ribbon cutting for Tri-County Chiropractic. I know I reported on this, but I wanted to include some pictures. This is the former Babes building. I would highly recommend stopping in. Jared and his team did fabulous, amazing job redoing this entire interior of this building. It's absolutely beautiful. He will be adding on to his staff. It's all hardwood floors, really nice barnwood doors, really great paint job. So definitely check that out over at 102 North Ridge Drive. Drop and Go is located in that new strip mall on Shawano Street. They had announced on Facebook that they were closing at the end of the year. The property owner contacted me and asked if I knew anybody that would be willing to take over the business. So I kind of put out some feelers to see if anybody was interested. And it sounds like he's found a potential owner to take over the business, and we're hoping that they complete the signing at the end of this week. So it's a temporary closure. We're hoping to see Drop and Go up and running soon. They're also adding ironing services to their menu list of services. I told them also to try to recruit a seamstress, because that is probably in the top 5 things that were contacted ever since Quick Stitches went out of business in New London. I want to make the committee aware that we partner with the SBDC out of both Oshkosh and Stevens Point. They oversee Waukega and Outagamie County. They now come to New London on the 3rd Thursday of the month. They come to the chamber boardroom between 12 and 4, and they provide free confidential business consulting. And we've already connected them with 3 different entrepreneurs or small businesses in the area. You don't need to be a chamber member to take advantage of this. So if you know anybody who is on the fence about bringing on their first employee, or starting an LLC, or expanding their business, this is the group that you want to be talking to. And I want to highlight that before Christmas vacation, Business View Magazine had asked the city and the chamber to sit down and talk about some highlights. And we invited Ellsworth Cooperative Creamery to come on in. We just shared some of the highlights and the growth that we're seeing in New London. So more to come on that. Commercial listing update. I don't think anything is updated on here except both properties from the Grand Cinema Theater have sold. We're still waiting on information on that. And I think I had reported that there was an accepted offer at the former, the New London Family Diner that has gone through, that sold. The new business is taking over February 2nd. And then the real estate agent wanted me to report that at 307 Smith Street, that lease is full there. Any questions? I have.
Thank you, April. Any other questions for April? Okay, then we can move on to the city administrator report. Chad?
Right, so after the past month, a lot of my economic development time has just been kind of working on residential projects. I continue to have conversations with a developer who's interested in doing the 4 12-unit apartment buildings that they're proposing to put just east of Aldi's. This is the same developer who built the apartments that are by Walmart. If you go down Partridge Drive, just north of Walmart, all the way in back, those apartments back there, same developer. So they're familiar with New London. They want to come back and do some more stuff. So working with them on that, we've started the process to change the future land use map in the comprehensive plan to make sure that that complies with their land use. So we've started that process, but the zoning should be fine because in our zoning update, we indicated that the zoning, we're saying that it should be multifamily residential and multifamily. So working on that. Also completed the first draft of the development agreement for the proposed Irish Meadows. This is a 10-acre development just northeast of Eastridge Development. That is a 20-unit single-family development. That draft is currently being reviewed by the city attorney. Actually, the city attorney is forwarding it onto their attorney. So those conversations continue. And then the 2 message wraps for the billboard have been ordered and currently in production. I just got an email this morning saying they're trying to get the schedule for the lift, but I did put in your packet what the new billboards will look like based on the feedback from the committee. The committee wanted to see the water tower, the substation, and then just saying land is for sale in the industrial park. So that's how the billboard turned out for the industrial park. That'll be south facing. And then the tourism one that April worked on is going to be north facing to talk about tourism in New London, less scrolling, more throwing, grow up outdoors in New London. So those are the 2 billboards. I'm assuming they'll probably be put up in the next month because we want to get them up when the ground is frozen yet. So as indicated, they're looking at trying to get the lift scheduled for putting them up.
I really like that tourism.
I love how their discs are like perfect.
Yeah.
The first time they ever threw a disc before and they were like, so
How many takes did it take to get?
I think that was their 3rd picture right there, their
Oh,
3rd
that's not bad.
take.
I don't believe those are illuminated, are they? There's no lights
Correct.
on there. Is there any maybe idea of thinking about what kind of cost that would be to light it?
I've been told if we modify the structure at all, right now they're grandfathered in as non-conforming. If we add lights, we change the size, we do anything major, that would change it, that we have to get permitted. We have to go through a permitting process for that. And I think the size is actually non-conforming right now. It's a non-conforming sign. As long as we just change the wrap, we're okay. But unless you guys want to start, illuminating it or doing something else, whole different process with the DOT with permitting, which I think right now it's just put maps on it and not have to go through the permitting process with that.
I remember earlier that was grandfathered, that we had to rebuild it, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years ago, that if it was to come down, there would never be one. Put one back up. There was an initiative to reduce billboards, and they said if we keep it, we keep it, but you won't get another one. I don't remember the reasons, but it was impossible permitting.
Yeah, it sounds like we can do minor repairs and change out the messaging, but
Yeah, we can keep it
I
up.
remember conversations where if we illuminate it or do something major with it, then we gotta go through a permitting process. And
Hopefully it never gets hit with a storm.
so that's all I got.
Okay, thank you, Chad. Reviewing potential agenda items for future meetings would be the hotel feasibility study, transportation updates, childcare updates, housing updates. I think we need to be looking back at some placemaking again, especially with the potential for some grants and
So good that you brought that up. So we talked about, the last time we talked about placemaking in the Spark initiative. We discussed that the next steps would probably be maybe talking to consultants about doing a little more formal planning. Ginger has her Wisconsin Parks and Rec Association Conference coming up in the next week. So she will be going to that. They have a trade show, tons of consultants and engineers there waiting to try to, give you information. So she's gonna collect some information at that conference and bring that back for review. So we'll talk about that. And then hotel feasibility study that's been on this potential for future agenda items for a long time. I'm hoping this year I want to tackle that one, now that we've got the zoning update kind of off our plate. Now that we've got our new community development director that can help with zoning projects, site plan review, all that fun zoning stuff. And once we get our city clerk hired, hopefully that will open my schedule up, and I want to tackle this one in 2026. So.
Those sound like two big goals for this committee for 2026. On top of everything else that we keep going with. So that kind of brings us into the reviewing of the next meeting date. We would be scheduled to meet on February 24th. So I don't have a problem with that. My question is, with what is going on with Ginger, did we want to combine a meeting with her to talk about Spark and talk about the potential of getting a landscape designer situation going, or do we want to wait yet?
So you're asking about maybe combining with Parks and Rec the following week.
Yes.
Why don't we play that by ear? If it's okay, let Ginger come back with information, maybe Bob, you and I and Ginger kind of chat about that. And if everybody's flexible, maybe we just have the chairman decide whether we keep it on the 24th, or if there's something that we really think it'd be great to have a joint committee meeting again. Maybe we push this one off to the following week and go March 3rd, if that's okay. Many of you will more than likely be here for Parks and Recreation anyway, so.
Right. And I guess I've been kind of assertive with this because in order to apply for those grants, and I think I've said this in multiple meetings, in order to apply for the grants, we have to have the landscape design at least partially drafted. We don't have to have all the T's crossed and all the I's dotted, but we have to have a plan, an initial plan. So to get that going so that we can apply for some grants and then figure out how to cross the T's and dot the I's, especially with the placemaking being such a big push from the state this year.
Yep.
So.
Usually when you talk about design plans, you talk about a 30, 60 or 90% design and then the final design. So for those grants, you're probably going to be looking at a 60 or 90%, because they want shovel ready. They really, everybody says shovel ready. So that's why you do these projects. You kind of have them sitting, waiting, ready to go, because then all of a sudden a grant will come out with a quick timeline and we want a shovel ready project. Here you go. So.
Yeah. And I don't want us to miss them. We've been talking about placemaking for a long time. We've been talking about updating Parks and Rec stuff. There's many facets to the placemaking, to the Parks and Recs, to the grants that are available. And we've already had the Sparks people telling us we should be applying for grants that we can't apply for yet because we're not shovel ready. So that's kind of why I'm keeping on this as the committee chair. Let's just keep this in the forefront so that we can be ready. We're seeing what grants can do in our community, and it's amazing. So is everybody okay with being a little bit flexible until we hear back? Okay, sounds great. Then that's what we'll do for that. Okay, so next up would be going into closed section. So I would like to make a motion per the following statutory exemption, 19.85 subset 1 subset E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session regarding an offer to purchase property in the Northeast New London Business Center by Avangrid Incorporated.
And I forgot to talk to you about indicate who's invited to closed session.
Invited invited to closed session are the members of this committee, and Mayor Mark and Chad and April.
April's on the committee.
Oh, that's right, she is. And I think that covers everybody in the room, correct? Pardon me?
And council.
And council members, thank you. Now we've got everybody in the room covered, right? Okay. So I make that motion to go into closed session. And we have a second by April. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?